don't care what anyone says, this season of Wednesday was just not as good as the first season. I blame that on Lady Gaga. In the famous words of Kanye, I like some of the Gaga songs, but what does she know about Nevermore? Let me explain.
The Big Dipper.
There were a lot of things that are completely wrong with this season of Wednesday. I'm gonna be basically complaining and ranting about a couple of things that I just don't understand why they were implemented in this season. And some of the plots that occurred in season 2 just seemed like bad plot devices or things done that just left me and probably you too as the viewer sitting there like, huh? What is the point of that? Okay, first of all, let's talk about this Bianca Barclay subplot. We all could tell that Principal Dort was up to no good from the very beginning. I get they had to do a little backstory on how Gabrielle fell for this whole morning song scandal. But then it just ended up being a pretty useless plot in the end because I felt like this entire thing was a setup for the whole Isaac Knight situation. So it turns out this entire season, Isaac ended up being the antagonist, but it took so many episodes of dilly-dallying just to get to that 8th episode. That was pretty much the best episode this entire season because we got to see a flashback when it comes to Thing, but I'll get to that later. We understand why Thing is here and where Thing came from, and it kind of tied up nicely. It's a good way to tie up a loose end, no pun intended. Alright, so like I said, the whole Principal Dort thing, it didn't really surprise me in the end. It was obvious that this guy was going to be defeated, and I really liked the way that they tied it in with the whole Principal Weems storyline. But I'm still trying to figure out how is she going to now run Nevermore again, because the only person who can see Principal Weems are Wednesday and Morticia. But that's pretty useless because the principal needs to be seen by the entire student body, right? Or maybe they're going to have some plot in the next season where they get away for Wednesday's spirit guide, which is Weems, to come back and to be seen by the masses. I don't know. I feel like Wednesday is just becoming convoluted, and also this entire thing of Larissa Weems being the 13th cousin, that was pretty left field. Where did that come from? I'm pretty sure that they should have explained that in the first season because there's no way Morticia didn't know that this entire time that her and Weems are distant relatives somehow. But it does make sense. That's why I guess Weems was silently beefing with Morticia back in the day when they used to go to the same school, because you know that stereotypical thing of cousins sometimes having beef with each other. But I just feel like it was a way to tie in the fact that she can qualify to be Wednesday's spirit guide. I just found it a little bit extreme, and it's like it was just done for the sake of moving the plot forward. Also, going back to the whole Bianca Barclay situation, I don't like the fact that Tim Burton just dumped the entire idea of her love interest when it comes to Wednesday and Bianca. Okay, in the first season, Wednesday was goofing around with Tyler and Xavier. I get the whole reason why the Xavier plot pretty much died because he got sacked from the show, but then what about Bianca? Bianca was busy with the mayor's son in the first season. That dude didn't even appear in this second season. Her whole focus now was the entire morning song saga. They were trying to give more meat and potatoes to that storyline. I get it, but I'm like, where's this guy? He just wasn't in this season at all, and his cronies, his boys, what happened to them? I feel like they just abandoned that for no apparent reason. Also, another big one that kind of rubbed me the wrong way. This might be a controversial take depending on who you ask, but this entire Lady Gaga ordeal, I wasn't feeling it. I thought based on the trailer, Lady Gaga was going to have a more prominent role, but it turns out it was just a cameo of some character they just put in the show as a plot device. There are so many plot devices in this season that it just feels like Tim Burton kind of got lazy and he just realized that he had a bigger budget. So he's like, Lady Gaga, you match the goth aesthetic, you're going to be in this show, even if it's for like 7 minutes. So Lady Gaga's entire role was basically this former teacher at the school, and then she links up with Wednesday and she gives her information. She's just a plot device, and it's just like, okay, Lady Gaga is in this, but I'm like, you could have had a more prominent role, you know? Everybody thought she was going to be one of those people who was underground, who was being experimented on like the rest of the outcasts, but it turns out that would have been too obvious of a red herring, so that wasn't even an option. She should have had as much of a role as Isaac. Tim Burton was like, nah, she's just gonna play a character who's essentially a plot device and gonna be talking to Wednesday just so Jenna, Ortega and Lady Gaga can share a screen together. But I must say the most interesting plot was the entire Isaac situation. Okay, I knew from the start when Pugsley found this guy and gave him the name Celeb that it was going to develop into something much more. He's actually a very compelling villain. I like the backstory we got of how this guy ended up being basically quote unquote dead. So recap real quick, Gomez was his friend back in the day at Nevermore and he had electric powers, but this dude abused the friendship because he wanted to save his sister from being a hide, and he took advantage of Gomez and he wanted to use all of his vaults to help his sister out with the hide case, but he wanted to kill Gomez in the process, and that's why Gomez right now doesn't have any outcast abilities. Fast forward and then this guy ends up being Slurp and Isaac is Tyler's uncle. I found this entire season to basically be about family drama. In the first season it was family drama mainly with the Addams family, but this season focused more on that with all the villains. Think about it, Principal Dot was a bad guy because he felt like a loser and he has his own drama. He betrayed this dude he met at the bar a long time ago in Florida, and we don't really get much about Dot's family, so basically he's a loner. Then we get Bianca Barclay. She has family drama with her mom. It's extended this season. Then Tyler's entire villain story basically dwindled down. Like, he used to be this feared guy, but I kind of found it weird how he ended up going from like a 7 out of 10 on the menace scale to being some guy who's reluctant on helping his uncle. Once upon a time, Tyler was feared.
So where do you learn those kung fu moves?
The whole point of Tyler was that he was this hide that was causing chaos, and then when he finds out that Isaac is his uncle, all of a sudden he simmers down. He doesn't really care about being vengeful towards Wednesday. They just threw that plot out the window. Like, now he's busy helping his uncle and he doesn't care because he wants to save his mom. Man, I find it weird how this season they just started introducing people. At the beginning of this season, Galpin dies, Sheriff Galpin that is, but they didn't even really do it properly. I was used to him now. I'm more drawn to him than I am to Miss Santiago. If she ends up kicking the bucket in season 3, I won't even be surprised. I feel like Tim Burton has a problem of just killing off characters, but he doesn't do it in a really compelling way because I kind of like Galpin. Sheriff Galpin was like kind of bitter towards the Addams family, and we never really got closure as to why. If you remember that first season, Sheriff Galpin was always on Addams' ass because he knows about Gomez from back in the day. He thought that this guy was a criminal, but I really thought that they were going to flesh it out more. We all know Gomez is innocent, but they didn't really explain as to why Galpin really has some bitter resentment towards the entire Addams family. I feel like it's deeper than what he showed us in the first season. Now that's pretty much gone, or maybe in season 3 and in subsequent seasons they're going to delve into it a bit more, because I'm still left with a lot of questions, and the fact that Tyler's mom just returns, there were a lot of twists and turns. It's strange how Tyler just accepts the entire situation and doesn't think twice. He just gets into the groove of things. Logically, that wouldn't make sense. Isn't he supposed to be trying to catch up for lost time? Tim Burton was like, yeah, you're related to this person now and you're just gonna appear in the show from here on out, and I'm not really gonna flesh it out as to why you're here, but you're here now. I don't know, season 2 of Wednesday is also just kind of becoming dragged out. Like, I don't really understand what was the whole point of the Enid love triangle. Were they just trying to parallel Wednesday's love triangle, if you can even call it that, from the first season of the show? Also, Enid's character arc is in some ways regressing. During the first season, she was this shy, timid girl. Now she's left her shell, but then by the end of the season, she said that she's a rare type of wolf, which I find strange because you'd expect her to be happy, because the main reason for her behavior in season 1 was all due to the fact that she couldn't wolf out. Funny how now her being a rare specimen is making her revert back to that version of Enid from the first season. I get it. She doesn't want to be hunted by other wolves. At this point, her outcast ability is now just a burden. I don't know, that's up to you to decide, but I feel like season 1 was really top tier when it came to the whole mystery of the hide scenario, and now in this season there wasn't really that much of like a mystery. There were 3 villains, if you can really call it that, but they kind of all got dealt with subsequently and pretty quickly, and the conclusion was not so interesting. For example, the lady who was the first villain, if you can even call it that, then there was Principal Dot, and then Isaac. But like I'm saying, I know it sounds like I'm hating, I really like the backstory of Isaac. That is pretty cool how we come to learn, okay, spoiler alert, that his right hand went missing and it's Sting. It's funny because his name is Isaac Knight, and if you take the same letters, it spells out things. So I was like, well done, Tim Burton. Well done, well played. It's interesting how everything in this season could have ended up not taking place if Pugsley just decided not to attend Nevermore. Like, yeah, sure, this dude was being put into high school lockers by the big kids, but that's because he was still a little way small dude. But I mean, I guess everything happens for a reason, right? So what is the moral and theme by the end of the second season? I guess it's the power of friendship or whatever, cause spoiler alert, Isaac Knight ends up getting defeated by himself because Sting, his right hand, betrays him. Whoa, this is really symbolic. Well, not really. But anyways, I'm looking forward to the third season because now we have to see whether or not Enid is going to come back as herself or she's going to come back as this alpha wolf. So that's pretty interesting. Plus, I'm also dying to see Aunt Ophelia. I don't know, tell me what you think down in the comments below. Was this season good? Was it bad? Was it mediocre? Was it phenomenal? Or was it just okay? Is the show now starting to get stretched out? Be honest. Tell me down below. Okay, bye.
Hey, if you enjoyed this video, consider watching one of the two on your screen right now. And don't forget, villains tell the best stories.